Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Lift Up live broadcast on connecting peers and creating powerhouses. This is a special event celebrating the International Women's Day last Saturday, and I've got a phenomenal panel of key speakers that are really engaged and want to share their journeys and their stories on creating communities and connecting peers together. So for those of you that are completely new to our Lift Up live broadcast, we've been doing it now for about 2.5 years. We've had over 100,000 global views. We've had over 70 key speakers that have been a part of this journey, talking about different topics every single month. So super excited to be talking about connecting peers and creating powerhouses today. I'm Louise Williams. I've been in staffing now for about 20 years, life sciences for 10 years. I'm the MD here at Fraser Dove International, which is the executive search life sciences talent consultancy. And we connected and brought together an inspiring group of female ambassadors internally within Fraser Dove around 2.5 years ago now. And we really just wanted to create a community where we could help inspire, connect, and champion other women across the globe. So those from academia wanting to transition into the industry for the first time, and those that are at director level that want to aspire to be C-suite or board advisory members. So we've been doing these broadcasts every month and really excited to bring in this panel today. But for those of you that are new, you will, it'd be lovely to say hello, build your network within this group. We often have lots of people dialing in all over the place. So please state where it is that you're calling in from, what country, what state, and perhaps what area as well within life sciences that you're working within at the moment. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in our first key guest, which is Gina Ford. Gina, hello. If
Hi,
you'd love to
everyone.
do, if you could do a introduction for the audience for us.
Sure, happy to. Hi, everyone. I'm Gina. Just Gina is good enough. I am the executive director of Women in Bio. I've been in the position now for almost 2 years, which is amazing to ring in my ears. Previous to joining Women in Bio, I was actually an executive in the life science industry. I started in the field actually as a market access professional and then saw my career grow all the way to the C-suite, kind of finishing with asset management and portfolio planning. So I joined WIB really because of the impact it had made on me throughout my career. And so now very happy to have joined the organization and leading through our next iteration of where we're going. We'll share more throughout the conference, throughout the call.
Lovely. Thanks then, Gina. And Kathy, if you could do an introduction as well to the audience for us.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kathy Kordy. My background is in medicine. So I used to be a practicing general pediatrician. And initially, my work started off in developing countries, ranging from providing HIV care in the Andes Mountains all the way to Malawi and South Africa. And now, over that course of that journey, I actually fell into a deep passion for research. And I went into pediatric liver transplant program and gastroenterology in prominent liver centers in the US. And in there, I just was able to run my own translational research on the intersection of HIV and a passion of mine and the gut. And what I discovered was a new passion for pharmacologic interventions and how I believe that the power of research can lead to more effective work in saving millions of lives on a global scale. And so my pharmaceutical career started at Novartis, leading pediatric drug development, and then went into Johnson & Johnson, leading development in rare diseases and maternal fetal conditions. And then most recently, I've launched my own biotech consulting firm where my goal is to help disrupt drug development by innovating successful trials in conditions with no existing therapies in historically neglected populations, in particular, trying to bring forward life-saving therapies to women and children globally. And it was actually across this very long journey that I ran into under the Sisterhood, which I'm the Chief Growth Officer for. And under the Sisterhood is this incredible pioneering social impact organization that helps empower women through the transformative influence of story sharing and building this community, which I'm hoping we can really dive into the impact of story sharing in that community piece in the next hour or so.
I love that. Thanks then, Kathy. Both Gina and yourself, really inspiring journeys as well within the life sciences space, and now almost utilizing your knowledge and experience of connectivity and bringing everybody together and launching these two communities over the last couple of years. So yes, I'm looking forward to deep diving into this conversation. But we've got Miriam, without last but certainly not least, Miriam, Women of Pharma. Would you like to do your introduction to the audience for us?
I would love to. Hi, everybody. I'm Miriam Kenrick. I've been in the life sciences industry for about 30 years. Almost all of that I spent working in different pharmaceutical companies, SmithKline Beecham, Roche, Allergan, Santen. At least 3 of those have changed into other companies or whatever in the meantime. So, yeah, about 3 or 4 years ago, I was sort of leading a team. I was the vice president of marketing for one region, and had a big team. Wanted to learn how to coach. How easy it is to be the doer and I would do it like this, and then I was like, no, I want to break that habit. So I learned how to coach, and that was sort of during the COVID period. And then as I came out of COVID, I met up with a friend of mine from the industry, and she'd just been to a networking event where she'd been meeting other entrepreneurs who set up their own businesses. Like, she had her own business as well, or has one. And so we just got talking about how, it was so inspiring for her to hear stories, very much like Kathy was talking about. Why don't we hear these stories in pharma? And I'd really noticed as well, having got to the leadership team, I was like, wow, I'd never thought about my gender at work before. And now I feel very noticeably different, and that had never happened in my life before. So we decided to sort of put all these things together, inspiring stories, helping empower women to step up into the leadership and feel like they have the right to be there. And then lastly, we are also looking to shake up the paradigm of medicine to be based on biological gender, which, having read Invisible Women, I suddenly realized hidden in plain sight was the obvious difference from everything from a health and medicine point of view that I'd never thought of. And everyone I've spoken to, they're like, oh yeah. So there are 3 pillars: inspire, empower, and shake.
Inspire, empower, and
shake.
Shake.
Inspire,
Love
empower, and shake.
that. Love that. Brilliant. Thank you, Miriam. No, that's really, really exciting. And I think that, again, is it Women of Pharma has been about 2 years? Is it 2.5
3
years
years?
established?
Now 3
3
years.
years.
So I think COVID gave birth to a lot, didn't it?
I did give birth to a lot, and
energy.
maybe that's something we're going to follow through with actually as a conversation later, because there are so many. It's kind of like, how do you decipher those ones that you're best to join, authentic? It's going to be an interesting conversation. So, but before we dive into that, obviously, just want to say to the audience, say hello, pop it in where it is that you're dialing in from. It's always good to get connected. We often have quite a lot of people that are dialing in that have been part of this community group before, so are regular attendees, which is great. And also, if you've got any questions, we really want to encourage this to be as an interactive event as possible. So we've got some questions come through from the community group already, but as we go throughout, pop in any questions that you've got, put a queue in front of your questions so it's easier for me to navigate throughout the comments, and I will try to bring them up as best as I can to ask this lovely panel of ladies the questions. So let's just kick off, because I think that one of the questions that came through our group was, what does a powerful network mean to you, and how has it shaped your journeys? And maybe that's just quite a nice way to kick off this conversation before deep diving into some of the more intricacies and the future of community groups. So I'll come to you, Gina, I think, with this question first.
Wow. What a way to start.
Yeah.
I think as I look about it, over the 25-year career that I had, it probably started most off with okay, where do I want to go next? Mm-hmm. That one simple step, where do I want to go next? And who do I think about can help me with that? I think, again, one of the things we're proud of is opening up web, just opening up the availability to ask those questions. 25 years ago, when I was thinking about my next step, it was really scary, right? Yeah. There was a bit of a fear to say, I want to do this and have support for it. And certainly if your ideals were too big many years ago, that was like crazy. You're after everyone's job. We'll see that you never do that. So I think, what does it mean to create that powerful network is understanding where you develop that first level of trust to begin with. that first few handful of people that can say, hey, that sounds good, sit and relish in your success here where you are. Enjoy that success, learn skills that you're going to need for the next level. And hearing that often just inspired me more to learn faster so I could get where I wanted to go sooner. But I do think it's a really strong thing is to be able to listen right away to those first 4 or 5 that say, here's what I would recommend. And those 2 or 3 people that are still in my network, that are still the ones I call, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? It's because I built that trust. I breathed into what they were saying and took opportunity to take their advice, and then was able to share that back. Hey, this is what I've done. What do you think now?
Yeah, I love that. And I think interestingly though, how times have changed, because maybe if it was 20 or so years ago, your peer would often be, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's kind of the people within your immediate team or your like department. It's quite rare back then that you would go and necessarily network with somebody that was kind of outside of your organization or outside of your kind of immediate world or company, and then sort of leverage and lean into that. So it's amazing how much it's changed now, where we're trying to encourage that peer networking outside of, not, or it's absolutely fine to be within your business, but it's sometimes nice to get opinions outside. So those sort of 4 or 5 people that you're referring to way back, are they kind of the people you immediately or you worked with closely back then and that you stay connected with now, or?
Yeah, definitely. And again, from just various mergers, acquisitions, life changes, we've all been dispersed to the wind. But I still, of those 4 or 5, there's 2 or 3 that are still on my hot list. I need to talk to you about something. And the other 2, I really, really reserve to say, this is a really big decision, or this is what I'm thinking about doing. But it's more of, again, it's that trust factor. I don't really want to expose what I'm thinking, but I need somebody to help think about it rather than working with my dog. He does not.
I love that. He listens, but it doesn't respond. And Miriam, what are your thoughts with this kind of question?
Well, I'm going to be super honest and say that I completely didn't appreciate or invest in networking at all for most of my career. So I was making the classic mistakes that lots of women and men, but I think particularly women make, is sort of focusing on the day job rather than my career, and not realizing that whilst I was good at building relationships, I never tried to leverage those relationships in any way for my benefit, and that felt very uncomfortable. I didn't even imagine doing so. Like I struggled to ask for help. I didn't know how to do that, and so, to be perfectly honest with you, I am super grateful to the people who've seen the potential in me and helped me, which I feel honestly, they've mostly done proactively, not because I've gone, I really want to do this. And I just look back now and think, what if I listening to you, Gina, like, I'm like, God, if only I'd had a plan, no idea what I was going to do next at every step, and what I wanted, no idea, and who to ask and how to ask for help, literally clueless. So, and that's partly why I think my best experience of networking now is really the last 3 years of having started something, thinking, well, everyone's going to think, who is she to do this, and what who are you, whatever. But actually, everyone's been so grateful, and it's created such a wonderful environment that now I'm like, wow, there's all these amazing people. Why didn't I know about them before? So
Yeah, I love your honesty with that, Miriam. And I think there's so many people that are in a very similar boat, perhaps not just appreciated the power of a network, and sort of, it's okay to almost leverage something for yourself and to reach out and to ask. And I think that in the end it gets reciprocated. It all kind of, what goes around comes around, if you're connecting to the right people and you're kind of valued, aligned, and there's a lot of authenticity, I think, in the relationship. So I love that. And Kathy, what's your response to this?
Well, I realized that, when you pose this question, that networks actually change over time. Some, as Gina mentioned, there's core people that stay with you. And then as your life evolves, your career evolves, where you are and your personal situation evolves, your network evolves as well. And over time, what I've noticed, what a powerful network means to me is this unconditional support, whoever they are, right? And back to what Miriam was saying, is that this belief in you, your community believes in you
Yeah.
in ways that you sometimes don't even realize. Like, do you really think I can do that? Or do you really think it's happening for me? Because I don't. And really, it's that willingness in yourself to be able to walk through those doors that they open for you,
Yeah.
and really, if you will, capitalize or realize what your network has always seen in you.
Yeah.
And it's that ability then to go back to that network as you're going through your journey, to really lean into them and that support that they have, and
Yeah.
not just guidance and tactics and strategies, but more of like, you can do this, and really push you to where you need to go. And I do believe that there's always like this core group of persons or people that follow you through your life, and that is in every aspect of your life, not just one very siloed aspect of you.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I love that. Yeah, that's lovely. We've got some great comments coming through, and I just didn't want to miss out with the audience. But so thank you for sharing that, Kathy. And I think you're absolutely right. The networking piece has just evolved so much over the past, few years. And maybe some of the techniques to understand is kind of the balance between the giving and the taking, and how regular do you try to keep in contact. Gina, like you said, you've got these 5 people in your buckets, but it's kind of like, how often do you try to engage with them to not allow that relationship just to fall by the wayside? Because it's so tough, isn't it? Like life and family life, or work, career, before you know it, it feels like 2 years can pass sometimes, and you're like, where's that time gone? But yeah, we've got, yes, go for it. Yeah.
But on that, I used to think this also about friends, because like you mentioned, people come and go, and your network evolves, and so you always feel guilty, I think, that we go, oh, I haven't spoken to them for ages, oh, it's too embarrassing now, I can't do this. And
Yeah.
then I realized that if everybody does that, then no one will contact
We'll never
anyone,
talk.
because of course life gets busy. So I started to change my attitude and think, oh, well, I'll just be the person to go, hey, how's
Yeah.
things? What's going on? And everyone was like, oh, wow, it's so good to hear from you, and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And suddenly you open up that connection. And
Yeah.
so I think it just takes, I would say,
One.
seize the initiative, and you don't have to kind of necessarily have a reason.
Yeah.
It's almost just the habit of randomly going, hey, what's going on? And if they don't reply, don't take it personally. It's
Yeah.
not that you're a bad person or you've left it too long and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. It's just, oh, they're in the thick of it right now.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I love that. It's just the proactive nature, isn't it? Like you said, someone's got to step forward, and why not let it be you? I completely agree. But yeah, Georgia dialing in from our HQ. Thanks for dialing in, Georgia. We've got Elizabeth as well here in CT USA. Don't know. Oh yes, that's under the Sisterhood, isn't it? Our your CEO. We've got if anybody comes up as in LinkedIn user, I think you've got your privacy settings maybe turned on. But thank you for joining us from San Francisco. We've also got, I think, Erin here, Frank from Frankfurt, Germany. This is my first lift up session. I'm very excited to be here. My background's commercial and marketing and pharma. Thank you very much, Erin, for joining. We've got Pinar as well. Hi, everyone, connecting from Germany again. 15 years in the regulatory space. We've got Shuli Porkus, who I know very well. I've met Shuli a number of times. She's dialing in from London. We've got Wang Li. Hi, you all connecting from London, looking for a role in life sciences, 2CMC or Reg Affairs. But thank you very much for your comments. Keep them coming through. And as I said earlier, if you've got any questions that you'd like to ask our speakers, then just pop in a queue in the comments, and I'll try to get through to them as best as I can. So we're talking about the power of networking. And one of the questions that came up that we talked about briefly was just balancing that time then, because some people I've spoken to, feel like they don't want to get into some of these community groups because they just don't have the time, or they're feeling a little bit like, actually something that has come up, which I hope is not too controversial to talk about, but I think some organizations, maybe more often the corporate ones, feel that if people are personal branding or networking kind of too much within the working hours, it can be perceived slightly negative or taking away from the kind of day job. But this is a really tough balance, isn't it? Right? Because it's, from a networking perspective, when do people do it? When is the best time? I think that networking has a huge impact on everybody's career, so actually it's only for the best that people can lean on others, whether it's mentorship, sponsorship, getting advice. So I don't know what your sort of thought around the balance giving and receiving support within your network. Gina, I'll come to you with this question at the moment.
I don't balance very well at all. I give a lot, but I always have. I'm just I geek out on helping other people just because I was helped. And I think, again, during the working hours, you just have to be, cognizant that work still has to get done.
Yeah.
But there's also the brain aspect of talking with somebody else. Me as a mentor, again, when I was in my career in life sciences, again, just talking to somebody else, even if it's helping them sort of understand where their focus is, what their struggles are, what they're trying to achieve, lets your brain relax for just a second, and then you can come back to your work in a different space. Again, today I consider it part of my responsibility. I can't help it, right? I sit in this very special position as executive director and overseer of the organization, but I know what these young ladies have gone through, or even these senior ladies who are looking at our Boardroom Ready program, and they just, they need someone to talk to. If they've taken the Miriam route and then went, wait a minute, I got to figure some things out. I just feel obligated to do it. I know that if I need somebody, if I need to be able to reach out to somebody, I have that opportunity. And technology has certainly helped that, to the extent of just being able to say hello. Again, I'm about as that you cannot get any more authentic at this. I am. My people know it. And when I mentor, or when I'm just chatting with people, it's just about really making sure that my time is spent well. It's frightening as a trusted, again, just relationship into mentor, into sponsor, that you are listening and you are really using your time effectively. It stresses me out when I don't know if I'm really helping someone. So managing that appropriately, having some conversations with people who want your time up front on email, technology. Hey, we'll talk about these 3 things. Make sure you come prepared, so that I feel like along the way they are fitting versus just spending that time willy-nilly.
No, I completely agree. Is there anything to add to that, Miriam or Kathy, from your perspectives, the balance giving?
Do you want to go?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think actually I say a lot of no's to people who come up to me for mentorship or anything like that, or even networking, because I'm very selective about who I take on, because I want to dedicate that time and that space and my resources and my network to help them out the best I can. So I actually say no quite a bit, but that makes the people that are in my network, or my mentees, and even my mentors, when I reach out, they get the most of me and the best of me. And that helps them the most. So I think it's very important to be refined and distinct about what your goals are with each other, when you create a network. And in the corporate world, I think it's impossible not to, whether you like it or not, get into a network and a mentorship, or as a leader especially. You inherently are that, whether you like it or not, and whether you've agreed to it or not. So it's really making the best of that community that you have, that you're in, or that you've created intentionally. But now, I mean, I'm so lucky that I am a huge proponent of supporting women, not only in health equity, but also in our communities. And I'm so glad that Elizabeth is here as part of Under the Sisterhood, because she really was incredible. One of these like wonderful people in the community who saw something in you that you didn't think that was there. I was like, oh, you think I can do this? I would love to. I can do this. So
Yeah.
now it's my job to be part of under the Sisterhood as a Chief Growth Officer to help create this global network of women and community of women across different life stages, across different aspects of their careers, in any industry, to be able to create this underlying core of network and community that is really important to create solidarity and empower women, no matter what. So you can certainly belong to a network that is still impactful for you and not just siloed in one aspect. And I'm really privileged to be able to do that in this role with UPS.
Yeah, thanks, Kathy. I think that's lovely. I think that this balance of giving and receiving is kind of an important piece.
Yeah.
There's individuals that I do speak to where they feel like they only join a community group, yes, because they're trying to seek advice, they're trying to seek guidance or support, but also they're really up for sharing their own journeys and challenges and solutions that's helped them. And I mean, there was one lift up group not long ago where we were getting a panel of speakers together, and it turns out they were literally 20 minutes down the road from each other in Chicago. So that's where we immediately, as a lift up group, saw the power of connectivity in group, because they then met up the following week for a coffee, and they now stay connected and feel like they're both leveraging off of each other's experiences and learn. So it's nice, I would say, as a bit of a tool or advice, that if you're entering into a community group, just try and be that open-minded, where it's not just about taking, but it's about giving as well, because you've often experienced certain career experiences and journeys that could help and benefit others.
For sure.
So yeah, is there anything to add to that, Miriam?
Yeah, a couple of things that I'd like to sort of reframe is, I mean, I think networking as a term, I'm curious how people perceive that, because to me, networking is just meeting people that are in, let's say, in your industry or whatever, for the sake of argument for that in this conversation. And then it's like learning about them and what's going on and sharing. And you can do that through walking around your office, if you still go to the office, or going to an event where there's going to be other similar people. It could be messaging someone, it could be, and so there's lots, and to me that means networking isn't this selfish thing that you're all trying to do to further your career. Like that isn't valuable, part of having a network. Actually, to me, networking is about having your finger on the pulse and having a really good understanding beyond your kind of limited day job. And if that isn't work, I don't know what is, because what brings the most value is an outside perspective or a different insight, which you're not going to get talking to the same people all the time. So first of all, I would say networking is work. Obviously, if you're out looking for a job, doing it like every week, then yeah, sure, the balance might not be right, but we don't do that very often in our careers. So I'd say go and talk to people, wander around the office, go and ask them what they're doing. I learn the most from all of that. And then occasionally you want to ask for help, and that might just be, oh, do you know anyone who ... Just introductions. It doesn't have to be as heavy as a whole mentoring thing, which obviously is very high value as well and another benefit, but it could just be just help me find my way and give me some more ideas.
Yeah, lovely. I think that's really well said, Miriam. And I think that's the point I was getting at when we entered into the question around, some of the mindset being, should this be done in work hours? And it's like, it is all part and parcel of making you as successful as you can be also within your career, because you are literally learning diversity of thought through just speaking to lots of different people with different mindsets, different experiences themselves. So I completely love that. We've got a couple more people dialing in as well. We've got Olivia from Switzerland. She's come up with a question here as well. Or just a statement here saying, I think that building a network and taking time to nurture it will also positively impact your day job in the sense of providing a bigger or different perspectives, apart from the positive aspects of development for the individual who will learn and grow from it, and hence also do better day to day, which I completely and utterly agree. We've had a nice little comment here from Elizabeth. We're privileged to have you, Kathy. Was her comment here. We've got somebody else dialing in as well from Southern California in clinical operations, so thank you for joining us. But just with this in mind, right? You've all built a community group, and there must have been some challenges with this. So if you don't mind being as open as you can be, what are some of the challenges that you faced trying to create this community that you've built, under the Sisterhood, Women in Bio, Women in Pharma, over the last kind of 2 to 3 years? Come to you, Miriam. I'll come to you with this question first.
Thank you. So I think the first thing is an interesting perspective, which is when we started to say, oh, we're going to do this, and like there's 3 of us here all doing, let's say, similar-ish things.
Yeah.
And I think the instinct is, oh, but isn't someone else doing that already? Like, why do we need you? And initially I was like, oh yeah, like what am I doing this for? Like there's already a something. But then I sort of realized, there's multiple companies selling multiple products, and you find what works for you. And then we've got different geographies and different whatever cultures, let's say, within the community. So we're not in competition. Like, why do we even think that? We're about enabling easier access to meeting like-minded people, I would say. And there is like an infinite need for that in all aspects of life. So I think the first thing was getting over myself and this like mental construct of it has to be unique and differentiated and blah, blah, all my marketing, nonsense. So that was one thing. The second thing was, I think, figuring out how to kind of enable these things to happen. Like we do quite a few events in person. How do we do that? Like, how do we raise money to do that? And there's, for me and my partner, there's just the 2 of us, and we don't want to spend our time hunting around for sponsorship. We know that it would be really helpful to have like a big chunk of money. But anyway, so we do a grassroots, more kind of pay for a ticket and low cost and stuff like that. So I think just figuring out the financial funding kind of way was a little bit, but we're just like, as long as we can keep ticking over, that's all that matters. Like we're not here to make money, we're here to enable stuff to happen. So I think they're probably the couple of the things. But then once we said hello, we exist, it just all starts to happen. So
People
it wasn't
start
really
following
a problem.
along. Yeah, no, I love that, and thank you for being honest. I think that there is, I'm sure in many cases, people back of their mind thinking, oh, well, there's tons of other groups that are doing this, but no group is the same, and everybody will have their own different connections, their different geographies, networks, industry spaces. Some will do more face-to-face connectivity than others. We do our broadcasts every month. We'd love to be doing more face-to-faces, but it's just not manageable at this point in time. We're trying to look at something later in the year, but every model will be slightly different. But it doesn't mean to say that you just don't crack on and help inspire and connect other people. So I love that. And for you, Kathy, what are some of the barriers, under the Sisterhood have been, is it 3 years now?
Yes.
Yeah, 3 years. So, have there been some challenges with collaboration or getting up to speed and running? What's kept you going, if so?
More recently, yes. But no, actually, so just to give you a little bit of background, just for everyone else in the audience, under the Sisterhood, its core mission is to address women's health issues at every life stage and really go in deep into the holistic female experience. And the way we do that is by using, we leverage our particular programming that's called Under the Hood to explore really pressing issues. And we do all sorts of, we have a very diversified platform. We create dynamic content, we create events, we do workshops, and this allows us to use storytelling in a very impactful and meaningful way in real time and virtually. And ultimately, our goal as an organization is to close the gender health gap and drive materially equitable outcomes for all women. Now, this is very ambitious, but it can be materialized into something that's actually tangible and productive. And most recently, we explored, what does this actually look like in the workplace, right? So when I was at Johnson & Johnson, one of the things that I found was that, and I think this is true of all corporations and all companies in whatever industry, is that there has been not a lot of community building and support networks for women. And this really leads to issues with talent retention and attracting talent, especially women. And there's this huge phenomenon in the world about the women brain drain from companies. And there's a lot of articles on this and research on this. And one of the things that I've noticed, even in my experience in J&J, is that like all these when these women-focused initiatives during, Women's History Month were, to me, at least in my experience, just tick boxes. And that community wasn't a real community. It wasn't real support. And so working with Elizabeth, we were able to create a programming for J&J called Under the Hood at J&J. And in this, we were hoping we met, and we were hoping and succeeded in being able to develop this programming that really created that community within J&J. And I think it's a model that can be used elsewhere. And it's for the purpose of not just, and this is the challenge, has been just to get out of that diversity bucket, because it's more than that, right? We're about attracting and retaining talent. It's about supporting and improving employee engagement. It's also ultimately helping to reduce healthcare costs within your community or your corporation by really being able to focus on women's health, not only physical health, but also mental wellness. And so that has been something that I think we're trying to overcome, especially nowadays in our landscape, to be able to say, hey, listen, this is important for women employees, not because of just diversity, for sure it helps, but it's more for actually creating a real community, a tangible material community that helps improve women in the workplace, and in bottom line, improve your company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'd say that, so just from a common barriers to collaboration, one of the things that's allowed you to maybe eliminate some of those common barriers and look at sort of a successful build of a community is to almost have that mission vision very early on, almost understand what it is that you're trying to build. And, in what you've just elaborated there, it feels like in the 3 years, you've stuck pretty close to that vision and mission. So everything that you're doing, even when you commented earlier around the people that you're sort of saying yes or no to, is because you're really homing in on what that mission sort of statement is and holding true by that. So yeah, I really like that. So you're kind of homing in terms of what your bracket or your kind of remit is, and staying strong. Gina, in regards to women in bio, that's slightly newer in terms of a build, isn't it? It's a couple of years, is it?
No, actually, I that's one thing I was hoping to
It's longer.
bring. So Women in Bio has been around for 20 plus years.
Oh, okay. Blimey,
Yeah,
that's a lot
and
longer.
so
Okay.
currently we have 13 chapters across North America. We're working on 3 other locations now.
Yes.
And the reason why Women in Bio is successful is because of the community and those local chapters that have been built around the early idea of community. So from San Francisco to North Carolina, RTP, to Boston, to LA, which we just launched in June, what's been known of WIB is the best kept secret. And I'm telling you now, it's been the best kept secret because the community exists at that local level.
Right.
And it's my responsibility to make sure we pay homage to that heritage of Women in Bio. But how do we harness the great things that are happening in these local chapters and create the equity across all chapters for all members and those who want to engage in our programs? And that is, again, because we have that heritage, we exist, because we know it's the best kept secret and don't want it to be a secret anymore, are looking in this new strategic plan to say, how do we ensure our sustainability? How do we make sure we keep growing? How do we make sure that more and more women have access to our programs from the classroom to the boardroom? And that's, again, friction exists across chapters, across leaders who, again, I want to do it this way. I've got a great idea, which the great ideas happen at the chapter level. How do we at Women in Bio take those great ideas and say, this is the next best thing to ensure professional development across all of our industry? This is the next best thing to help us with our mission of equity and inclusion across the life sciences. So again, we've been around for a while, but we are in a growth mode. One last comment on that. I think as we think about these new chapter locations, we are thinking differently about our identity and how we collaborate with women's groups, diversity groups who may already exist there. We can't all keep adding programs to the week and expect that we're going to get $50 a ticket. I can't even afford to go to all of the events. So I think what we're hoping to do is be be more collaborative, and people
Yeah.
that are already doing events like Lift Up, people who are already programming, and say, how do we bring more audience to that? How do we bring some of our programs to the platforms that already exist there? We don't need to build everything. We need to figure out how to partner and collaborate with those who are building something unique.
Yeah, I love that. Really, really well said. And I think that the chapter pieces. So when you use the terminology chapter, are you referring to territories and geographies?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? Because there's a few other community builds that do things like that. I think Chief is one. So Chief do it by territory, which is an interesting dynamic. But there's so many different community groups. There's some groups like Chief where you may have to spend quite a lot to be a part or a member. There's some that are free. There's different sort of programs. I guess that from a question that came through from the audience was, how do you identify and attract the right people to be a part of your inner circle? And when I mean that, I mean that is in your kind of community group. What do you do to kind of help build, just thoughts and ideas for not only people looking to try and join a group, and maybe different avenues of trying to find the right group, but also just in terms of, if you are a community manager, or you are looking to build a community, what sort of things should you consider to try and help attract the right people in? What were the first kind of marketing tools or tools that you used, Miriam, to help set up Women in Pharma?
Well, because myself and Sarah were or are both marketeers, we sort of had a process which was quite handy, and actually defining our core values was really important, and sort of having a sense of, what does engaging with women in pharma feel like, and I think that in itself, like all companies and organizations, attracts then people who resonate with that. So, for us, we're quite high energy. We use a lot of music in our events. We're constantly being very creative, and it's a sort of, you come away from an experience at Women in Pharma event, and it's like, whoa, like that is not like another event that I had attended before,
Yeah.
So and so I think then that in itself is then what gets talked about. And then we've done, I don't think, like 4 or 5 events in person, and when we asked everyone the last time who's been to one of our events before, it was like 50-50, and we were like, wow, that's amazing, because we want to, of course, bring in more people all the time, but to have 50% of the people wanting to come again, I was like, wow, that is amazing. I can't believe you want to come back, but that's great. So I think that's kind of really important, the values. And then obviously the way that you put yourself out there. I mean, I love your logo under the Sisterhood. It's so, you get a sense of that kind of community and sort of rebelliousness as well, and things like that. We use the term sisterhood, although we've decided we want to allow men to be involved, so we've sort of tried to reduce that a little bit. But so I think the way that you put yourself out there, the visuals, the tone of voice, all that kind of classic stuff, makes all the difference, really.
Love that, Miriam. Yeah. And Gina, what are your thoughts around this question?
Yeah, it's as just what I just said, kind of in maintaining homage and deference to the heritage of women in bio, but really thinking about this inner circle and who we partner with next. Some of our methods and materials on leadership development, career development have been in existence for 10 plus years. So now, as we think to bring those to larger opportunity, it is partnering with some organizations that recognize what we have done by volunteers. Volunteers have actually created this, and then it went from one chapter to the other, and it got refined, and then it got refined. So we're really looking at this now as not as sponsors, but really those who want to partner with women in bio in a greater sense and bring professional expertise to the things that we've done. Really bring again additional skills and capabilities to what we've created, so that again the community never goes away, but the experience and the impact that is critical to our mission gets elevated even higher. And that's really what we're focused on now, is kind of creating those partnerships in industry, those adjacent to the industry that recognize our mission and say, how do we make it better?
Yeah, I love that. And something that I've, spoken to a number of community builders. I've got Andrew and Zoe McCaskill who have built the executive career jump. Andrew, I think Miriam, he's got over 100,000 followers now. But I remember him always saying to me when we started Lift Up that to really feel the true success of a community build is when you've established and created something, but then you can almost back out of it because the rest of the community are just there engaging with each other and leaning on each other. And I think that was really powerful because
Awesome.
even it almost felt like, yeah, it was, not that it would be less of us as a community leader trying to navigate the conversations and to spark the conversations, but it got to the point where all those in the community group were the ones sparking the conversations between each other, and that is what kept it going. And I spoke to Ilum, who's in Switzerland, Basel, who's developed women on stage as a community. And I'm sure, I don't think she's on this right now, but she's got to the point now where she holds 50 people in Basel every single month, same time, face to face meeting in the same office, same time, Thursday at the end of every month. And she just said, like, it gets to the point now where just people that I don't even have to really necessarily organize it. I don't even have to send out invites. It just gets booked up and full because people just want to connect with each other and they want to learn and listen off of each other. And I think that's a demonstration of a really strong, successful community build where it's almost not you driving it anymore. It's the people in the group that are driving it. But yeah, super. I mean, we're 45 minutes in. I'm super conscious of the time. I don't know if there's anything to add to that. Kathy, anything from your perspective?
Yeah, well, I love what Miriam was saying. Yeah, we were a little bit of a rebel rouser, for sure. And I think there's a quote that Miriam, you made me think of, like, well-behaved women rarely make history, right? So that's our intention. Was we're living into under the sisterhood for sisterhood, and we're unabashed about it.
Yeah,
And
love that.
no matter what the climate is, we will continue to be us. And I think that's really important. And one of the, just to go back to your key question here, is like one of our, it goes back to the last question, actually, one of the challenges that we had, and we continue to evolve and grow, is that we really wanted to make sure that we used our platform, our storytelling platform, for women across sectors, industries, everywhere around the world, socioeconomic class. It was very important for us to actually get into a diverse, have diverse speakers, have diverse engagement from all over the world. And so right now we have over 62 countries represented in our community, and we even have a foundation called Sisterhood that's based in Africa, and we want to make sure that we are very inclusive of the diversity of thought and experiences of women across the world. So that has been a beautiful challenge to overcome, and also something that we are really, this is how we want to continue to grow.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you, Kathy, for sharing that. And there was a question that's just come in from Georgia, just as we wrap, was what's one small action we can take today to lift up other women in STEM? And I think that tagging that maybe into the academias that maybe are looking to move into STEM. We know that there is still that bit of barrier around career advice for those that are in schools or education as to the world of STEM and what opportunities there are out there. But is there any advice that any of you could give? Because often when people think networking, you kind of have to have experience behind you, or maybe it's a confidence thing. You've been in a workplace environment for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. You're a bit more open to networking. But in my view, start networking if you've finished a degree. It's kind of like, or you've left college, you've studied this, you've decided that you might want to start a career in this, get networking. But I don't think that there's many younger generations that are thinking about that. Is there any advice that you'd give in regards to that, maybe, Miriam?
Well, I mean, recently, just a couple of weeks ago, the PM Society, which is Pharmaceutical Marketing Society, had their annual careers kind of half day. And so I love going along to that. It's a room full of young people, and I got chatting to them, as well. And they the things they're doing. I mean, you know, robotic this, and
AI technology.
I've got this vision of how I'm going to build this new pharmacy, blah blah whatever, and I'm just like,
Wow.
I felt already like an old lady from the wrong part of history talking about. So, I mean, any conversation I would say is with them is like, you know more than most people in our industry, you know, and there's so much to science and technology and the whole thing that, you know, just find something that you're super curious about or passionate about. You know, both Kathy and I have talked about in the need for changing medicine to understand the female body. You know, it seems ridiculous we haven't done that. So I talk about that a lot, and people are then like, oh yeah, God, that's terrible. And everyone, you can see everyone light up when you start to explain like what's gone wrong in this journey, and what the gap is, the opportunity is to fill. So, you know, I think just encourage, you know, just being encouraging and say, look, you know, you're changing the world, you're leading the way, like just show us what to do. That's sort of my take on it.
I love that. I love that. I'm conscious that we're running a little bit out of time now. So one of the last questions I'd love to come to you with. So, you know, Kathy, what's one piece of networking advice you swear by, or you feel is really important, just to, as a takeaway for the audience, something you'd recommend or you've done before and it's worked?
Well, I mean, if I had to use, and just very briefly, if I had to use one word, it'd be vulnerable, right? And what I mean by that is just be out there, be yourself, put it out there, what you want, what you need, where your gaps are. So really, then this goes back to like story sharing, you know, as on the other end, you know, not when you have someone come up to you who is interested in STEM or whatever it is, share your story. And I think this sharing your experiences of your personal journey, not just like the tactical things with related to that one little focused area, but like your whole journey. It really has the ability to create a blueprint for overcoming obstacles and empowering women who are interested to going into STEM. And women leaders who share how they've conquered, for example, imposter syndrome can really help galvanize others to step into leadership roles. And that has a triggering, it triggers like a domino effect of empowerment. So be vulnerable and share your story.
Love that. Thank you, Kathy. And Gina, what would be your piece of advice?
Mine is for both mentors and mentees. Do what you say you're going to do. And especially for mentors, if you offer to do something, you must do it, because the potential that you leave something hanging may never allow that person to have the courage again to ask for help, may never allow that person to know what to do. And the same is for mentees, right? If you agreed to something as a mentee, you must do it, because you will lose access to that person. So it is my motto that I live by. And sometimes it gets me up very late at night following through. But you have to, you really have to do what you say you're going to do for the benefit of both.
Yeah, thank you for that, Gina. I agree completely. And Miriam, your piece of advice that you swear by?
I used to think networking was scary and I would avoid it. I felt like, who'd want to talk to me? Like, what's up? What have I got to share? You know, like, and when I sort of took the spotlight off myself and I realized actually it's just an opportunity to go and be curious and learn and get inspired by hearing from other people. And as soon as I took the spotlight off me and focused on this is a chance to learn, then it felt so much easier. So move the spotlight.
I love that. It's almost step outside of your comfort zone a little bit, isn't it? And the bit of advice I think you mentioned earlier, Gina, that's just something that's you know stuck with me, where you've got to sometimes just be the one to be proactive and just take that first step forward. So I love that. Well, thank you so much for all of your advice. It's been a great conversation. I can't believe we're like 53 minutes in already. So look, our Lift Up community page, I've just popped the link in here. We've got over 2,000 followers. Again, this is all around the community build. We've got some great members in there sharing their stories, their books. We advertise as well all of our Lift Up broadcasts, so you can stay in tune as to when they're coming through. I've got a feeling next month even is our male allyship one, which is going to be hosted by Andrew McCaskill. which is a super exciting broadcast for next month. We're going to be in April. Can you believe it? It's April next month. I nearly said April and then thought it's Easter coming. But yeah, look, thank you so much. We wanted to obviously celebrate, this week and today in this broadcast to International Women's Day and Girls in Science as well. So we really believe that, calling to action, creating these peers, connectivity groups, community builds is super important. So make sure that when you're joining, you've got the value alignment, you can see where the mission is for the community and that you want to be a part of that mission. And lastly, just thank you so much to the audience for dialing in and to all of you wonderful key speakers for joining me today. So enjoy the rest of your afternoon and your day. Take care. Thanks very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.